Okay, let's tackle a huge question today. Why is it that Europe, a place just buzzing with incredible startups, has such a hard time creating the next global tech giant? Well, the answer might be in this really bold new plan called EU Inc. It's designed to fix a problem that's been holding Europe back for literally decades.
So, what is holding Europe back? It's something people call the scale-up gap. The continent is a fantastic place to start a company, no doubt about it. But turning those small startups into global powerhouses, that's where things get tricky. I mean, just look at this chart. The venture capital investment in the EU is just a tiny fraction of what we see in the US. So what's behind this massive gap?
Well, the heart of the problem is fragmentation. For an entrepreneur, Europe's so-called single market can feel like anything but single. Just imagine, you're trying to grow your business, and suddenly you're facing 27 different sets of company laws, 27 different ways to register your company, 27 different stacks of paperwork. It's a total labyrinth of red tape, and it pops up right when a startup needs to be moving at lightning speed.
So, how are we going to break this down? First, we're going to get lost in what we're calling Europe's startup maze to really understand the cost of all this. Then, we'll look at the big solution on the table, EU Inc. We're going to dig into how it's supposed to work, ask if it can really spark a new European dream, and finally, we'll get real about the big hurdles still standing in its way.
All right, let's dive right in with the startup maze. Let's see just how much this fragmentation is really costing businesses on the ground.
Yeah, this isn't just some minor inconvenience. It has a real, tangible cost. Get this, a survey found that over a quarter of startups in the EU have to use at least 10% of their staff just to handle regulations. Think about that. That's your engineers, your designers, your big thinkers, all spending their time on paperwork instead of building the next big thing.
And this frustration, it's felt right at the top. Venture capitalist Tom Henriksen put it perfectly. For founders, it's not a clear road to success. It's like being dropped into an endless maze. Every time you cross a border, it's a whole new set of rules to learn, new legal bills to pay. You get the idea.
This problem got so big that it finally set off some major alarm bells in Brussels. The 2024 Draghi report was this huge wake-up call. It warned in no uncertain terms that Europe was losing its competitive edge. The continent's best and brightest companies were literally packing their bags and moving to the US, all to escape what the report called the bureaucratic handbrake holding them back.
So out of this crisis comes a potential solution. It's called EU Inc., or sometimes you'll hear it called the 28th regime. It's a plan to create a single, unified company structure that works across the entire European Union.
So what exactly is EU Inc.? Well, think of it as a new UE-wide legal status for a company, and the key word here is optional. It's not going to replace the national company laws we already have. It just sits alongside them. So a founder in Germany could still set up a GmbH, or a founder in France could still create a SAS, or they could choose to become an EU Inc.
And you know, this isn't just some fantasy from a think tank. This is now official EU policy. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, she stood up and formally announced the plan. She gave it the official name EU Inc. and made it a top priority.
But what would being an EU Inc. actually look like day to day? Well, the whole proposal is built around four main ideas, which you can think of as the 4 pillars of simplicity. Okay, Pillar 1, 48-hour digital incorporation. No more waiting around for months. Pillar 2, a single central EU registry, so anyone, anywhere in the Union can instantly verify your company. 3, standardized legal documents for fundraising. This is huge for making it easier to attract global investors. And 4th, a unified system for employee stock options. A massive win for attracting top talent from all 27 member states.
Now, it's also really important to be clear about what EU Inc. won't do. This is purely a corporate law thing. It won't touch national tax laws, and it won't change local hiring rules. It's just an optional tool designed to make life easier for companies that want to grow across the whole continent.
So what's the end game here? If this plan actually works, what could the impact really be? What is this new European dream that everyone's hoping for?
Well, the vision is a pretty dramatic before and after picture. Instead of hiring 27 different legal teams, a company would just follow one set of rules. Months of paperwork? Gone. Replaced by a 48-hour online setup. The whole idea is to swap out all that complexity for simplicity, to make Europe finally feel like the single market it was always supposed to be.
When you boil it all down, there are 3 massive strategic goals.
First, stop this game of jurisdiction shopping, where founders pick a country just because its laws are easier. Second, make European tech a much more attractive place for global investors to put their money. And finally, the big one. Let a startup in Lisbon expand to Helsinki just as easily as a company in California can expand to New York. But now it's time for a dose of reality. As incredible as all this sounds, EU Inc. is far, far from a done deal. It has a long and probably pretty difficult political journey ahead before it ever becomes law.
So here's what that road looks like. The official proposal is slated for early 2026. After that, the real political battle royale begins. Negotiations between the European Parliament and all 27 member states. In the best-case scenario, we might see the very first EU Inc. companies registering sometime in 2027 or maybe 2028.
And during all those negotiations, one key political battle is going to decide pretty much everything. And it comes down to a choice that sounds technical, but is actually hugely political. Will the final law be a regulation, or will it be a directive?
This choice is absolutely critical. A regulation is a single law that applies directly and in the exact same way across the entire EU. That's the gold standard for this plan. A directive, on the other hand, is basically just an instruction for each country to go and create its own law. And that could lead to 27 slightly different versions of EU Inc., which would completely defeat the whole purpose of the project.
And that right there gets to the heart of the challenge. As one member of the European Parliament, Damien Boeselager, pointed out, the single biggest obstacle is convincing 27 countries to give up a tiny bit of national control in order to get a much, much bigger collective gain. Overcoming those short-sighted national interests is going to be the ultimate test for EU Inc.
Which leaves us with the final, massive question. EU Inc. is a really powerful idea. It has the potential to totally transform the continent's innovation scene. But will it be implemented with the kind of boldness it needs to finally unlock Europe's full potential? Or will political compromises just water it down until it's another good idea that's stuck on paper? Only time is going to tell.